So let's talk about dreams. Not just any dreams, but those really vivid ones, especially when animals show up. In Islamic tradition, these aren't just, random brain noise. They're seen as something much deeper, like powerful messages, a symbolic code coming from the unseen world.
I mean, have you ever had that dream, the one where a lion is chasing you? Your heart is just pounding out of your chest. It feels so real, right? Almost like it has to mean something.
Or what about this one? That creepy, unsettling feeling of a snake wrapping itself around your arm. Ugh. Yeah, these are the kinds of images that just stick with you, long after you've woken up.
Well, here's the thing. According to Islamic tradition, these dreams aren't random at all. It's not just your brain misfiring. They're seen as part of a symbolic language, a code, that if you know how to read it, can actually be understood.
So you're probably asking, okay, how does this code even work? Well, think of the animal kingdom as this huge cast of characters. And in the theater of your dreams, each one has a very specific role to play.
Basically, every single animal becomes a symbol. It could be pointing to a hidden enemy you don't know about, a blessing that's on its way, or maybe a critical warning that you really need to pay attention to. The message all depends on the animal and, crucially, what it's doing in the dream.
Okay, before we get into the nitty-gritty of what each animal means, we need to get the basic framework down. This comes straight from the Hadith, the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad. It says dreams fall into three main buckets: a good dream, which comes from Allah, a distressing one, which comes from Satan, or simply a reflection of what's on your mind during the day. This is super important because it's the first filter for figuring out which dreams might actually carry a deeper message.
All right, with that foundation laid, let's get to the fun part. Let's start cracking the code. What do these animals actually mean when they show up as friends, enemies, or even signs of good fortune?
And wow, the symbols can get really specific. Take a lion, for example. All that raw power, it often represents a really formidable person, maybe a powerful boss or a ruler, and usually they're an adversary. A snake? Well, with its sneaky nature, that points to hidden danger or treachery. A horse, though? That's a great one to see. It usually symbolizes honor, strength, and success. And then you've got the cat, which might represent a thief or just someone who isn't quite what they appear to be.
But here's a super important point. Context is everything. It's not just about the animal you see. It's about what you do in the dream. So seeing a snake might be a warning, right? But if you dream that you kill that snake, that's a total game changer. It's interpreted as a sign of victory, that you're going to overcome that hidden enemy or that personal struggle. Your actions in the dream can completely flip the meaning on its head.
And the detail doesn't stop there. It goes even deeper. Take the dog. A black dog is often interpreted as a pretty powerful enemy, sometimes even something supernatural. But a white dog? That could symbolize a friend who's actually insincere or disloyal. So the color, just the color, completely changes the entire message. Isn't that wild? And what if that dog bites you? Well, then the interpretation gets even more pointed. It's not just a vague idea of a disloyal person somewhere in your life. No, it's seen as a direct, clear warning of betrayal or harm coming from someone you really trust. 7. This number is at the absolute heart of one of the most famous dreams in the entire Quran. And this story really shows just how powerful, how world-changing an animal dream can be. So the story goes like this. An Egyptian king has this dream that he just can't shake. In it, he sees 7 fat, healthy cows just grazing peacefully by the river. A really powerful image of abundance and prosperity. But then, the dream takes a turn. 7 skinny, sickly-looking cows show up, and they eat the fat ones. The king is baffled. So he turns to the prophet Yusuf, or Joseph, who interprets it for him. He says, look, the 7 fat cows, that's 7 years of incredible harvest. But the 7 thin cows, they represent 7 years of devastating famine that will follow. And because of that interpretation, they were able to prepare. That single dream literally saved an entire nation. So you might be wondering, where does all this stuff come from? Is it just old folklore? Actually, no. It's a really deep scholarly tradition, one that was built over centuries and has its roots right in the scriptures. This whole tradition is really anchored in 3 main sources. First up, you have the Quran itself, and that story of Prophet Yusuf is the perfect example. Then you have the Hadith, the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, which gives all sorts of direct guidance. And third, you have the incredible work of scholars like Ibn Sirin, who way back in the 8th century put together one of the most famous books on dream interpretation ever.
And here's a great example of that direct guidance. This quote from the Prophet Muhammad gives you a really practical, spiritual game plan for when you have a nightmare. Basically, it says if you have a bad dream, don't dwell on it. It's from Satan. Instead, seek refuge with God, and it won't be able to harm you. It's not just advice, it's a tool for taking back control.
Okay, so after all that, what does this ancient tradition of decoding dreams really mean for us, right here, right now? Let's kind of pull it all together. So, if you're going to take away a few things, here they are. First, remember that not all dreams are the same. They could be divine, they could be from your own mind, or they could be demonic whispers. Second, those animals that pop up, they're not just random, they are packed with symbolic meaning. And third, and this is a big one, this isn't just guesswork. It's a serious interpretive tradition with a really deep history in scripture and scholarship. You know, at the end of the day, whether you believe these dreams are literal messages from the unseen or powerful metaphors bubbling up from your subconscious, their purpose in this tradition is pretty much the same: to give you insight. They can be a source of guidance, a really important warning, or maybe just a mirror showing you truths about yourself and your life that you just can't see when you're awake.
So the next time an animal shows up in one of your dreams, maybe instead of just shaking it off and forgetting about it, pause for a second and just ask yourself, what message could it be carrying? What is my dream trying to show me?